That was a picture. I was trying to. Oh, is this recording? Oh, wow. Okay, wow. I just got freaked out. My camera is recording, and I did it with a hand gesture that I didn't realize I was doing. Anywho, hello, welcome. I am Scotty, your friendly neighborhood body double, and so I guess we're going to start off most of the videos with introduction. Hey, you got me. Secondly, if you're here searching for body doubling stuff, you probably already know what it is. If not, Google it. There's lots of information out there. I'm just the other guy in the room while you have a task to get done. Now, if you're go to the website, or actually down in the description, I'll have a link where you can download your to-do list that you can make. And if you haven't done that, you might want to go do that real quick. Pause up, hit down there, download your Goblin Mode List, and start filling out stuff that you got to do. We got a 5-minute column. There's a like about a 10-15 minute column. Then there's a 40+ minute column for the really big stuff. Just load up your to-do list and just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to sit down for 5 minutes and do this, or I'm going to sit down for 20 minutes and do this, and then I can be in the room with you while you do it. And when you get to the bottom, if you fill it out, you can give yourself a goblin treat, whatever that is. Or if you don't want to write a list out in that way, then click the link next to the download for the Goblin Mode List, and there is a website called goblin.tools, I believe, and it is a neurodivergence to-do list creator. And you can tell it how spicy you're feeling. If you're just having a rough day and you're feeling like 5, fill that out, and it will give you every single step-by-step for whatever it is you have to do. Because we sometimes have problems with the ADHD stuff with processing a lot of things. Like if a problem looks really huge and nebulous, we're likely to go, nope, I don't have enough tickets for that today. So anyway, go get your to-do list done and come back here, because today I am going to be doing the exciting thing called folding laundry. I have a lot of laundry here, and if you look behind me, well, those are some things that we're also going to get to, because I have doom piles of all kinds of stuff. Mostly in my spare time, I'm a puppeteer, do a lot of stage work, that type of thing. So I have been making and creating props for years and years and years, and they take over everything. So that'll be another project, but today it's all this laundry, because I spent 2 days washing it and no days folding it and 0 days putting it away, and now it's sitting here and it's so let's go ahead and get started. You do what you got to do. I will do what I got to do, which is ironically one of my least favorite chores. I've never been a big laundry fan. I don't know if you ever watched that intro video, but essentially in the intro video, I talked about how much I hate to-do lists. And part of the reason that I hate to-do lists, so I would say to my wife, they feel like a punishment for me. And part of that reasoning is because that was actually a form of punishment when I was a kid. So my mom, God bless her, had 3 tools in her toolbox when it came to dealing with me. And the 3 tools she had in her toolbox were scream and yell, grounding, and then, beat the snot out of you, hit you, go get the belt, that type of thing. Those were her 3 tools. And they say if the only tool that you have in your toolbox is a hammer, suddenly all of your problems start looking like nails. And that's kind of the downside of that, is she didn't have a lot of tools, and so suddenly every situation was a scream and yell situation until that stopped working, and then scream and yell situations turned into hitting situations and blah 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 blah. Anyway, all of that is to say that I have lost my train of thought, and you know what? That's okay. Punishments. So the cousin to grounding was housework, chores. I mean, I grew up with your standard old school, I don't know, toxically masculine dads. You know, it's my mom would get mad at me and overload me with chores, and then if I did anything, my stepdad would be like, "Did you get your skirt work done?" I said, "Skirt work?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You're doing the work. It's for women. So that's why it's called skirt work." So that meant that I was really kind of being raised in a situation of, well, I can't like cleaning up my house because that would make me like a woman. I can't enjoy these things because those will make me like a woman. And my stepdad very blatantly made it known that was indeed a bad thing. That's that toxic soup, you know, you get grown with, and then, you know, get married, and guess what? There's a whole lot of friction in the house because I don't do my share of the chores. And as much as I hate having to admit that, it's true. I mean, I've tried to work on it to be better, but I was notorious for, like, I didn't do it, you know. It's like my wife ended up having to take care of everything, and so it does start to build resentment over time, because if you're the only person doing everything, after a while you kind of get tired of being the only person doing everything. So yeah, there was a lot of problems there, and the problem is like I would, you know, my wife and I would be talking. These are things that she would need to get done around the house or whatever, and she would make a list to be like, "Hey, can you take care of this stuff?" And then I would get my nose completely out of joint about it. I didn't need your damn list, pardon my French, but that's, you know, basically how I felt. I'm like, I don't need your list. I am good. Because for me, that list as a kid was a form of punishment. It was a bad thing, and it was it's a helplessness thing. Hang on, I need a drink. Sorry, I got a drink and a bunch of ice came into my mouth. And I thought, ooh, I'll just, you know, crunch it up like as you do. But the problem is the microphone for this is right here. It's one of the bone conduction ones. So I'm not 100% certain how that would sound on your end. And as someone with misophonia who absolutely can't stand like crunching sounds, especially ice, I don't want to do that to you guys. So yeah, there you go. So I had to take another swig and swallow it. I was back to the whole to-do list thing, and it's a form of, I guess, trying to kind of showing me, the kid with, you know, authority issues, trying to show me just how powerless I was. Like, no, you're going to do this. I'm going to force you to do this. There's no agency there. There's no anything. That's kind of how that plays out. So now being given a to-do list feels like an authoritarian move, I'm above you move, I am superior to you, and you are my subordinate. It's how it feels. It's not always how it is. Sometimes it's just, hey, there's a lot of stuff that needs to get done. Can you do some of this? Not if you don't do this, blah, blah, blah. But that's how I took it. And so that caused a bunch of friction in my marriage because my wife is a to-do list maker. And I'm a to-do list fighter. Like, I hate them. And so I didn't do a lot of housework. I didn't pick up my weight, but I didn't realize that I wasn't. I know, bad me. I just didn't know. And I didn't foster an environment that was safe enough, emotionally, I guess, for my wife to say, hey, stop it. So, I've done a lot of self-work and everything over the years, and now I see the inherent beauty of a to-do list. I've had too many things in my life that I have said, oh yeah, no, I'll remember that I then absolutely promptly did not remember. So as I've gotten older, okay, but I have come to realize how important lists are for me, because it's almost, they're not, I don't like doing routines, as it were. I have routines that I do because of the ADHD. If you bathe in a certain order, raise your hand, because I have a very particular order when I'm taking a shower, and it's really basically go, get wet, hair and beard, let that sit, soap up, rinse off totally, get the face scrub, hit that, and then shave, and then done. Like, the problem is I save shaving until the very end because I talked earlier about tickets. Like, oh, we have these tickets. I don't have enough tickets for that. And I look at it like, I guess the metaphor is that you've gone to the carnival and you have bought a bunch of park tickets. And just like a carnival, all of the rides are different amounts of tickets. Some rides are 1 ticket, some are 5, and it varies. And that is kind of like life. It's like I wake up in the morning and I have been given a certain amount of tickets. Now, some people, they get unlimited tickets. And as they go through the day, they pick up tickets. They're just, they are very ticket rich. And some people are very ticket poor. Now, some people that are ticket rich, those would be like the ones that, I don't know what the proper terminology is these days, but I'm saying neurotypical, even though I could be wrong. But the normies, they're the ones that, man, these rides are so cheap, and oh my goodness, and because they've got the Magic Band, they've got the annual pass, they've got back in the old days they used to call it the e-ticket at Disney, and other people, they don't get the Magic Band, they don't get the e-ticket, they have to buy their tickets individually, and like I said, everything you do in your daily life takes tickets. So some days I don't have enough tickets to take a shower. Just getting up and going through my day and doing what I have to do leaves me expended enough that when the end of the day comes, the thought of going in and taking a shower and all of that and just washing the day away is exhausting. Even though I know for a fact that if I were to get off my butt, go in there and take a shower, I would feel better. But it's that motivation, making that decision. That's where the ticket is. That's how much it costs you, whatever that is. And so what I would run into is times when I just don't have enough energy. I don't have enough tickets for personal care, bathing, stuff like that. Now, if my family is like, oh, hey, Dad, we're going, we need to get ready, we need to go someplace, we need to do this, we need to do that. If it's for other people, I can find tickets, or I can just, I don't know, go in ticket debt as it were. But when it comes to doing stuff for me, much less likely to do that. And that's wrong. It's kind of life though, you know. I mean, I have found that I'm always happier to help other people than myself. I could dig into why that is later, I guess. I don't know. It's I mean, it's probably because of the way I was brought up. But anyway, sometimes you have tickets to do stuff, sometimes you don't. Sometimes your ticket is only for one thing. So maybe I have a ticket that is for beard care, but I don't need to take care of my beard because I don't need to put any extra conditioner. I don't need any of that. Well, what I need to do is to shave. It seems pretty simple that you should just be able to switch the beard. Like a ticket is a ticket, right? No, this one says for beard care only. This one is specifically for when I get out of the shower, I put in my leave-in conditioner. But if I don't need to do that, I should be able to just spend that ticket on shaving. But I can't. And that's hard for people that aren't up in the middle of it to understand. It's hard for people who have a lot of tickets to either A, understand someone else's ticket poverty. Like, how is that even a thing? How could you possibly? Because I have so many, you know. And it's hard to have empathy for someone that you don't quite understand. Now, I can tell you that my wife does not intrinsically, I mean, she logically understands ADHD. She understands what it can do. She doesn't always understand how it does what it does. Ooh, speaking of, that's my wife. I have to go. And let's see. I think I've already got my steps for the hour. Yeah, I got my steps. I was just filming, so you can continue doing whatever you're doing. But hi, everybody. I am filming. The microphone is connected to my head, and it's okay. So you can yell hi to everybody because they will probably. So, yes. So I have a Fitbit that tells me every hour I need to get off of my bottom and get 250 steps. And so my wife and I, we call them voots because this little thing goes voot voot at 50 minutes after the hour if I haven't got my steps. And so one day I texted her, I'm like, hey, voot voot. And she's like, what was that? I said, it's your Fitbit telling you need to get 250 steps. Oh. And then she promptly goes and gets her 250 steps. So then I got a Fitbit, or no, I got one. She had one, and then she got me one for Christmas. And at first I thought it was gonna drive me nuts, but it has actually done me a lot of good to get up every now and then, because sometimes, I mean, if you have ADHD and you doom scroll, raise your hand. Sometimes I get caught doom scrolling. I will fall down a Wikipedia rabbit hole if I am researching something. 57 pages in, I'm on the trail. I'm a detective. But I have not moved an inch. And so, in trying to combat this sedentary lifestyle, we got Fitbits. So that was my wife just asking if I had got my steps for the hour, which I had. So anyway, we were kind of talking about how it's hard for neurotypicals to fully comprehend the neurodivergent life. You know, my wife for years was like, hey, you know, why don't you just focus more? Why don't you just ignore this thing that's distracting you? Why don't you just, and realizing that what I would consider a major distraction, she does not even a little bit. And that's kind of I wouldn't say a hard thing, but it doesn't allow for a lot of empathy to say, oh, you're going through that? I did not realize. And so there's, it's, I think over the years, she's kind of mellowed out some, and I've mellowed out some, and we've got a better understanding. A year ago, I started taking Concerta. It was on the lowest dose they would give me because I didn't want to go too much. I was on Adderall for a while, and that stuff was just ridiculous. I had to take it every 4 hours, and it really did not work very well for me. I didn't like who I was when I started taking Adderall. Fun fact, I was writing novels. I was an author, if you will, and I was big on writing. In fact, raise your hand if you're doing NaNoWriMo right now. That's going on, National Novel Writing Month. I completed that one 3 times, I believe, throughout the years. And anyway, super long story, semi-short. I got a novel published. Got signed with a publishing company. And then everything just went sideways. I won't go into everything that was going on. That's neither here nor there. Point is I ended up getting out of my contract with them, and in doing so, it took me 3 months to get out of that contract, and I fought for 3 months. And by the time it was done, I had spiraled into a depression that ultimately lasted for about a year and a half. I didn't realize it at the time. It was my wife that actually pointed it out, because she says, you don't ever write anymore. You don't do this, I changed. And part of it was the depression from trying to get out of that book deal, and just the mental warfare that went on with that. Anyway, during this time, I had started seeing a psychiatrist, because in my home, in my state, you can't get ADHD meds prescribed by your general practitioner. At that point, you couldn't. You can now. But at that point, I had to go to a psychiatrist. And so she put me on Adderall, and then she gave me an antidepressant, which I don't even know the name of it. I took it for 1 day, and it was 2 of the worst days of my life. I mean, not entirely, I have had worse days, but stacked on top of each other, they were an absolute nightmare. So I took that antidepressant first thing in the morning, and then within an hour or so, I started feeling my gag reflex was just on the verge of activating. Just gag reflex. I wasn't nauseous. My guts, they were fine. But every time I took a drink, every time I swallowed something, just sitting there, it always felt like there was a finger about to touch the back of my tongue, and I was gonna. Literally, I was for 24 hours. I was like feeling like I was going to vomit at any given second. Yeah, 0 stars, do not recommend. That was horrible. So I was like, I ain't taking that one anymore. One thing that they tell you about antidepressants is that you have to wean yourself off of them, and they tell you to not stop taking them cold turkey. And the reason for that is because it throws your body into a horrific state that you don't want to be in. That could be way worse than what you're taking the antidepressant for. So anyway, I had only taken one, and I said, nope, I'm not taking it anymore because I don't want to feel like that. And that was that. And I woke up the next morning early, just abdominal cramps, just, oh God, it hurt. And it just kept getting worse throughout the day, so that by midday, I was basically one cramp from here all the way down. Like there was not a single part of my digestive tract that wasn't just, you know. That was agonizing, and I see why they tell you not to stop your antidepressants cold turkey. I was incorrect in my assessment that I only took one. How bad could this possibly be? Oh God, it was horrible. So inside out. These things are amazing. These little undershirts called Airism by Uniqlo. By the way, Uniqlo, if you are watching, I would absolutely love a bunch of these in XL, please. Preferably black. Those are my favorite. They are the absolute perfect undershirt. And no, Uniqlo did not pay me to say that, but you know, if they wanted to pay me, I would not say no. I am not above that, my friends. Yeah, I basically, whenever I hit that antidepressant, and then I was on Adderall, and working through just the absolute BS of trying to get out of that stupid writing contract. By the time my contract was severed, I should have been saying yay, but instead I was done writing. Done. I quit writing. Like, just the absolute urge to write was gone. And I mean, I know part of it is because of just the absolute depression of having to go through all of that with the stupid publishing company. But I had a sequel to my novel already planned, and I mean, things are like looking on the up and up. I'm like, man, this is getting exciting, yeah. And then, like I said, it just stopped. I have since gone back and reread the story, and I'm like, ooh, that's really cool. I don't remember writing that. Yeah, the whole writing thing just kind of faded. So that's a long way of getting around to just like, I'm on Concerta. I'm on the lowest dose because I didn't like how I felt with the other stuff. Concerta didn't really bug me. I do know it's a time release. If you're on time release, I can tell you exactly when it wears off. I have been known to wake up in the kitchen at 2 o'clock in the morning, having just been sitting on my phone, scrolling, and then just wake up. Or maybe I was listening to an audiobook, and all of a sudden I come to, and I'm 5 chapters later in it. You know, I've literally been sleeping in one spot, you know. And I would tell my wife about it, And I don't know that she believed me. She's like, really? Really? You just turn off? Really? Yeah, so here, I don't know, it's probably a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I don't even remember. Anyway, my wife got to see it happen. We were all up, we were doing some stuff, and I don't even remember what it was, but something exciting happened, and they're like, oh, hey, let's go check that out. And they look over, and now I had just been awake and talking to everybody, and they look over, and I was dead asleep. Just, and I told her, I said, it's literally like someone just turns my off button. Just, it's the weirdest thing. I don't know, so that's the only real complaint I have about Concerta is that I go, and I'm not like jittery. I'm not like, oh my God, I'm wide awake. Let's go do this. I got my floor in the middle of the night. I'm not doing any of that. But I'm up. I'm not. There's no tiredness at all until I'm unconscious. That's it. That's my only real complaint. Like if I could get a taper off, so I'm like, oh hey, I yawned once. I need to start getting ready for bed because this Concerta is about to wear off. It does not do that. It is just, I'm going along, and then it's just like they turn the key off, and I go, okay, we're done. And it's like a power, like a robot, just powering down. Excuse me. But yeah, it's doing the Concerta thing, but I don't do a ton. I'm not like, and when I first started taking it, it was like, oh man, I had power for days. I'm getting everything. I was taking care of 2 or 3 things off the honey-do list at once. I'm blowing and going, man. I was a power machine. My body's gotten more used to it, so I'm not where I was. But it's not a bad thing, because part of my problem, or part of my thought process on all of this is that I don't want to rely on the medication if there is something that I can learn that will help me when I'm not on the medication. Some days I forget, which I think is funny because they like to, restrict a bunch of stuff because it's like, oh, this is it's an amphetamine, it's a controlled substance, illegal, all this stuff. Why? Because it's addictive and I forget to take it. It's like, it's not addictive to me. That may be addictive to some other people, but not to me. I don't know. It's kind of crazy, but anyway. Towels. Is there part of laundry you just hate? I mean, I do. I don't. Okay, socks. Socks is my least favorite, and towels is my second least favorite. That having been said, I would still do every ounce of laundry in the house every day than to wash dishes. I loathe washing dishes with a mighty passion. And the reason for that is very similar to the reason I hated to-do lists. And that is because when I was a spicy little boy, my mom would ground me. And I'm not saying she was wrong for grounding me, but part of my punishment wasn't just, oh, go to your room and think about what you did. Part of that punishment was I, as a 4th grader, was in charge of the kitchen. Whether anything was clean or dirty was on me. So I had to learn very quickly how to wash the cast iron pans and how to take care of this and how to do that. And I started taking over loading the dishwasher because my OCD would kick in, and if someone loaded it incorrectly, I would get really upset. And then I would say, I'd kick everybody out. It's mine. Anyway, fun fact, OCD is just an anxiety disorder. it's anxiety driven or anxiety adjacent. So if you have ADD or if you have OCD, you have anxiety. I can talk about that later. Anyway, my point was that I was having to keep the kitchen clean as a punishment, and so now I really absolutely view having to clean the kitchen like I'm being punished, and I hate that. And I hate it because I do all the cooking, so you'd think I do the cooking, I should just wash the dishes, I'm right there, and I'll have the kitchen exactly the way I want it, and blah, blah, blah. You would think that would be the case, but it is not. And it ends up, I do the cooking, my wife does the cleaning, and while that is an agreement that we have come to, there are days when she is just absolutely getting her butt handed to her at work, where it's just absolute non-stop conference call after conference call after conference call. And, the occasional bathroom break, she'll run out for a cup of water and then, oh my God, I'm late for another call, that's going on. It really shouldn't be that big a deal for me to go into the kitchen and do a quick load of dishes. But every time I go to do it, it just irks me. I hate it. Because it takes me back to those times when, as a kid, I was being punished. I was being punished with women's work. I was being punished for having ADHD. I was late diagnosed, but I didn't just get it when I was in my 40s. I had it the whole time. It was ADHD down the whole way. I was being punished for stuff I really had no control over. I was being punished because my mom knew that I didn't really much care for doing dishes anyway. So she didn't like it. So she's like, I'll just make him do it. Okay. So then, it's my brain has equated keeping the kitchen clean with a woman's work or a punishment, and that's some garbage that needs to be excised, ugh. So we tend to try to battle gender norms here. I was a stay-at-home dad for 14 years, 13 years. I could have been a better stay-at-home dad. I wish I had been a better stay-at-home dad. But we live, we learn. We give ourselves grace when we need it, as we give other people grace when they need it, because, well, nobody's perfect, Sorry, I got a text and I was just looking at it. Squirrel. That's the downside of having a text come through on your Fitbit too. It's like, ooh, what's this? Just one more way to be contacted. So I have been trying to retrain myself so that I don't look at lists as a negative any longer. I have so basically my wife and I, once a week, we have the equivalent of an employee or staff meeting where we sit down and we talk about the house, the state of our relationship, the state of, there's 3 check-ins, and I'll probably end up doing a full video on this one just because I think it's so cool and like to write it out. But basically, about once a week, we have been doing Sundays, but Sundays got really busy recently, and so we've had to kind of adjust around. But essentially, you pick one day of the week and you set a time, and you and your significant other, whoever that may be, whoever you're spending your attention on, or who's expending their attention on you, we sit down and we touch base. And look, I'm not gonna lie, as a guy, I was a little worried about this one. You know, like I get again, another one of the ADHD things, rejection sensitivity dysphoria, I think it is, rejection sensitive dysphoria. Anyway, I historically have not taken criticism very well at all. So the first question on this check-in, we do is it's owned tasks. So at the very beginning of this, we sat down and we divvied out which tasks do we own, that this is ours. And it's the basic ones, and it's like, oh, I do the cooking and the grocery shopping. And my wife was like, okay, I clean the kitchen, and then I find a certain zen in mopping. So the floors became one of mine, and all this stuff. So we went down at the first time we did it. It took us probably about 3 hours. It took a while because we got into these really big conversations, and it was like, oh, okay, well, then well, each week I get to look at my wife and say, so on which ones of my owned tasks have I fallen down on this week? And I have to be prepared for what she's got to tell me. We have made an agreement that we're not going to make anything rude or aggressive, but it is a special kind of feel when the person that you love absolutely dearly, probably the person you love the most on the entire planet, looks you in the eye and tells you how you're failing them. No, it was never my intent to fail you. And she's not saying I'm a failure. She's just saying, this is where you fell down on stuff, and I have a problem with that, and but what it did was it highlighted, like, she would be like, hey, you've really fallen down on the floors recently, they're not as clean as they were, and I'm like, you know what, you're right, I need to get off my butt and mop it. So anyway, we do the checklist there, the very first one, own tasks. Were there any that I fell down on this week? And then she's like, oh, yes or no. And sometimes it's like, no, everything's been fine. And then we go, okay, are there any new tasks that have cropped up, and who needs to do those? For instance, did we have, did music lessons come up, or is there some sort of band thing, or is there some sort of, sporting good thing? So that's kind of where we hit, like, are there any new tasks? If there are, we assign them, or we, whatever. And if there's not, then we go on. We're like, okay, is there anything in the coming week that you would like me to focus on? And that's when it came up about the floors on one, where she was like, yeah, no, I really want you to do the floors this week. And I said, okay. I put that on my checklist. I put that on my list of stuff to do. On my Goblin Mode list, and that's one I put an hour down for, because I have this wonderful steam mop. It's got 2 rotating heads, and it goes brr, 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 while you hear the little in the background, and it is my son said that was satisfying AF, and he's not entirely wrong. So anyway, then we go on to the next one, which is our week ahead check-in. And that one's the big one for us, because we're at the age now, like, our kids are just ridiculously busy all the time, every time, everywhere. There's someone has to be somewhere at all times, kind of thing. And we plan that ahead. So we've got the calendar hanging up on the wall. It's got some pockets for good stuff, you know, and so we have things in there, and so we pull the calendar down, and I write down every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You know, it's like, okay, school, what time? Do they need to be in early? Is this normal time? Whatever. What time is pickup? And then what are the extraneous stuff? Is there some kind of a rehearsal? Which, by the way, I am in a play. I had thought about doing a video with me just running some lines, but I realized I don't have the broadcast rights for that, and me just reading the script or running through the lines would be technically performing the piece, and that would be a copyright issue. So I was like, oh, nope, I will not be doing that. Anyway, the sorry, I got completely sidetracked there with what I was talking about, because that's a thing that happens. Oh, talking about being so busy. And basically what that allows me to do is to get an entire view of the week at hand, to know that we've got big stuff happening here, big stuff happening here. Okay, these are the big days. You know, do I need to make what I call a quick dinner? Is that quick dinner is a, you know, is that a crock pot meal? It's something that is ready whenever we need it, or it can be microwaved whenever we need it. I don't have to be like, it's already cooked and ready to go. So, you know, we write down, those are the days we do quick dinners. You know, and essentially you just map out your entire week so that you got a really good idea of what's going on. And then at the very end of that, you say, okay, here's the week. These are the things that we've put on the schedule because we feel that we have to do these things. You also need to schedule something on there that you get to do. And so a lot of times with, you know, me and my wife, it's like, okay, is this, what are we scheduling? And sometimes it's family game night. Sometimes it's family movie night. Then there's been times it's like, okay, how about we let the boys have a sleepover somewhere and we schedule some alone time, and whatever that looks like. Used to be like, oh man, we're gonna go out to the restaurant, we're gonna do this and blah, blah, blah. And what it has become really is we're gonna go to the grocery store, pick out a good steak, and then we're gonna come home and we're gonna eat that steak, and we're gonna watch a movie or do whatever. And that's, you know, that's our date night. I mean, it doesn't have to be somewhere. It's just us. We're doing our thing. Folded that up and I didn't know whose that is. Okay. This is also the downside, is when they handed me all of the laundry, it has all been mixed. So everybody's is everywhere. And it's really testing my ADHD brain to have to figure out whose is whose. But that's, we make sure that it doesn't matter how busy the week gets, that we've got at least one fun thing, or one thing scheduled to, you know. And I mean, I'm sorry, but at this point in my life, I mean, scheduled intimacy is still intimacy, and I'm okay with that. That's just, that as the Stoics would say, it is what it is. And after that, we go through, and this is the biggie. This is the one that isn't always the funnest to do, but we also have an emotional check-in. And the emotional check-in is basically just saying, hey, how did you feel cared for by me this week? And then you get to ask them, how did you feel cared for? Or they ask you, you ask them, you're swapping. And I will say, out of every single time that my wife has answered that question, it is like during the week, I try to go out of my way to do something to go, aha, this is how I'm showing you how much I care for you. This is, you know, and almost never has that come up as a thing. it's almost always been, oh, hey, when you did this one offhanded thing, I really felt cared for. And it always surprises me. It's just one of those things that you never know what you do and the effect that you have on others. Like, you may sit there and think, oh, yeah, well, I don't matter. No one's going to notice. No one's going to care. No one's going to whatever. And then you find out later that they do care. Many years ago, this kid that I worked with at a restaurant, he was having a rough time. He had moved out of his house. Ironically, the people that owned the restaurant I worked at were his owners. The owners were his parents. Boy, that... I may rethink that. I'm never going to edit my videos. Anyway, here's how it goes. He had moved in with his girl, who was just... she was not good. She was not good. Did not treat him well at all. And he didn't want to move back in with his parents. He didn't know what to do. So I said, hey, why don't you just stay here? At that point in time, I was at the house by myself. My wife was working a job that had her at home 4 days out of the month. So she would be at home for 2 days, and then she would leave for 2 weeks, and then she'd come home for 2 days, and then she'd leave for 2 weeks. And subsequently, I was very alone, and I didn't know it at the time. I've since found out I had spiraled into deep depression at that point. Hideously deep depression. And I didn't do well. I was by myself. Like I said, I was depressed in the house alone. So, this guy, I was like, hey, you can move in. I don't care, whatever, And he moved in, and it was, I don't know, a couple of months of coming home and finding out that my computer had been infected with a virus because he kept downloading LimeWire. It was LimeWire was the main one he kept doing. He kept downloading it, installing it, and then downloading God knows what, I think it was albums, and then my computer would get infected, and I would clean it off, I would take it off, and he would re-download, and it was this for like 3 months, basically staying up until 5 o'clock in the morning, playing Magic the Gathering, really unhealthy stuff, eating absolute garbage, drinking way too much, that whole self-medicating spiral was going on. Anyway, fast forward, he moves out, gets a place of his own, and then I never hear from him again, And this was years later. I get a message from someone that says, hey, are you Scotty from blah, 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 blah. And I recognize the name of the dude sending the message immediately. I was like, yeah, no, that's me, man. What are you doing? How have you been? I haven't talked to you in, 10 years. And he says, oh, doing great. And he says, I just wanted to let you know that I have a son. And I was like, oh, hey, congratulations. And then he says, I hope you don't mind. I named him after you. You could have knocked me over the feather. Why in the world? And then he was like, I wanted to name him after someone that I respect. He said, because I was going through a really, really hard time in my life, and I absolutely believe that you're the reason that I'm still alive. And that absolutely blew me away. Because honestly, we were just staying up all night playing Magic the Gathering and being stupid and quoting strong bad videos and, you know, stuff like that. But I can also look back and go, you know what? Same. You know, I absolutely was in the deepest pit of depression at the time. And if it hadn't been for his just being there, you know, I don't know. I don't know what would have happened. I know it probably wouldn't have been good, you know. So it's kind of that thing that you don't know what kind of impact you are making just by existing. So don't ever think that you aren't, because you are. Just the fact that you exist on this planet right now, you have value. You fit in to the world where you fit. May not always be where we want to fit. That's where we are. Let me get into a whole thing on stoicism at some point. There's a couple of good audiobooks with Marcus Aurelius, kind of giving his meditations. And I mean, essentially I would boil all of stoicism down to the serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that's the hard one. Stoicism basically says do not put energy into things that you have no control over. Only put your energy towards things that you do have control over. And then they spend a lot of time talking about how you know the difference. There's a lot of different tests that you take, but sometimes you have to look at life and go, it is what it is. This was a bad deal handed to me, and that's okay. Because you have the power to rise above it. You have the power to affect change, even if you don't think you do. All right, I am just about done with this part of the laundry. And then I am going to give myself a little goblin treat because I've been a good boy and I deserve it. And this will give me a second to have my goblin treat and then come back to my next item on my Goblin Mode list, which is to put all of this away. So by the end of today, my laundry will have been eradicated. Until tomorrow, and it's already piling back up, because that is what laundry is. It is a never-ending to-do list item. Luckily, I only have to do it once a week, but maybe that's why laundry and dishes are the worst. They're Sisyphean in nature. You roll that boulder up the hill just to go, finally clean. And then you look in the sink and you're like, I haven't even unloaded the dishwasher yet. Why is there more in here? So, all right, that is that. I'm going to put these at least in the basket, because if you don't, they will fall over. The cats will come in here and they will knock it over, and then suddenly all of those clothes that you folded are unfolded. And that is not good. So we're putting these in here. Socks. Ugh. Told you I hate socks, right? Hate them. Is another way that I could tell that I was a little on the spicier side neurodivergent wise was I have very favorite socks. And when I find socks that I like, I buy like 30 pair of them. And those are the only socks I will wear because they're my favorite. And if they're all the same, I don't have to sort through them. My kids, however, love, I don't know, like, what is it, the Barty Bots, any kind of flavor beans? Yeah, they've got the every kind of pattern socks. Ugh. Tell you, it makes laundry time an absolute nightmare when it comes to socks. Because invariably, there's always a bunch left over, and you go, I don't know who these are, but here we go. All right, there. That one goes in there. There. And there. Okay, well, there we are. So, I think if you come back, we'll have some more stuff. Like I said, I have got so many things that I'm trying to get taken care of because I have been remiss in my duties, and my wife, being as understanding as she is, has not been as strict. She hasn't been quite as much of okay, you know, you need to get off, you need to do this, you need to do this. You know, she's like, all right, he's having a rough spot, he's doing whatever, okay, we'll cut him some slack. But I was running too loose of a ship, and I realized that I was letting my wife down, and I was failing her as a husband, as a friend. And so I've been like, okay, what can I do to do this better? And honestly, the body doubling thing, the reason I like it is because it's literally a thing that works for me. And the odd part is that I wasn't sure how this is really going to work out, in that I got a camera going, whatever, but what am I going to do? Like, at no point did I really feel like, oh man, I'm done with this laundry. This is driving me nuts. I gotta go. I gotta go take a break. I take a breather. It's overwhelming, because sometimes that happens. But that never happened because we were talking. And I like that. And I realized the body doubling thing, that you were helping me. Like, for instance, the self-care thing. That is something that happens with ADHD, is self-care tends to fall off the radar sometimes. And that happens with me. And so here I am, knowing today I had to get this laundry done, because it's been that sword of Damocles hanging over my head. And I wanted to get it done with a video, because I thought, yeah, I can just sit here and fold clothes and we can BS for a little while. But I hadn't taken a shower in 2 days because I've been busy. And then at night I come home and I had no more tickets for bathing. But there was no way I was going to sit here and come on with beard, scraggle coming out here. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Better go take a shower. So I got some self-care in today because of you. So thank you for that. And I got some clothes folded because of you. So again, thank you for that. Thank you for stopping by. If you have any ideas for future videos, I'm looking at even making some parallel play videos in the future. You know, maybe sit here and play some video games or read a book while you do whatever it is you do. If you were one of those people that really want someone else in the room with you to just veg, I could do that. You know, give me some topics for that. Shoot me an email, bodydoubleWithMe@gmail.com, if that works for you. Like I said, this is really our first outing. We have a lot more to do. All of this back here is been the albatross hanging around my neck. I desperately need to get that tidied up, and so you'll be there for that. I've got a wall that's a bookcase filled with all of my superhero geeky stuff. If you didn't notice the shirt, it says "Roll for Initiative." Mind Flayer, D&D. I like to play D&D. Because what neurodivergent doesn't love playing D&D, am I right? So anywho, there's a lot of stuff coming in the store. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Thank you for helping me get my laundry folded, get hydrated, stay hydrated, get something to eat, and go give yourself a goblin treat, and I will see you next time.